So I'm just.
Wie filmt het?
Nee,
Je zet op Facebook.
yeah, Facebook. So starting with yeah, an ellipse. So we've got, if you look at the glass, you've got the ellipse. Remember the rule with a cylinder. You've got two. If we're going up, then the minor axis of the cylinder gets smaller as you go higher, and that's too small. So a bit bigger. Maybe a bit bigger still. Okay. And actually, I want it to be a bit wider as well. So let's change this. At the top, it's a little bit of an angle. So let's say this can help actually. If I look at that, I want this to be about this round. And I want this to have some thickness. So you've got a lot of lines. Shouldn't be too worried about having all those lines. So the things we got with a glass, the wall thickness is not transparent. So I'm going to draw a double line here to show the thickness of the glass. And then I can darken that edge a bit. So while glass is transparent, doesn't mean that it's light all the time. You need to have enough contrast. I'll try and emphasize that edge in this one. And now we've got the thickness of the glass at the bottom. Most glasses are a bit thicker at the bottom, so we're going to draw this, and it's not okay just to draw a line at the front. We need to draw the whole ellipse. And always try to build your shapes from a transparent volume. So if you're adding thickness to something, you draw the whole around this. So I'm drawing another line. I'm trying to connect. Sometimes it's difficult, so you can draw little sort of sticks up here, and then just try to hit the top of each one. Okay, so now what I want to do is just darken the bottom edge. Remember to do that. See how I'm using the curve of my wrist? I can't draw this curve just like this. I need to use this, using this axis on my wrist to get a steady curve. And I want to end going straight up at the edge and not like a point on these. Okay, so I'm just darkening bits on the inside wall. I'm going to darken these bits here to make, just to emphasize that. You can see on the glass there's quite a lot of dark and light things going on here. So okay, so once I've done that, I can start with my markering. There's a few things I can think about. I'm going to start by just putting some of those streaky lines in, and I'm considering already the light direction. So what I want to do is keep a bit of a highlight area about here between these 2 points. So if the light direction is this, there should be a highlight coming in between here and here. So the highlight will be somewhere there. And I'm drawing in the direction of that curve. So think of that angle is important because it's leaning out. Here it will be straight, and here it will go in the other direction. So here I just put some shading. Basically, they're just some streaky lines that will help define that glass shape. And on the inside edge here, now what I want to try and do is remembering that these edges are opaque, I'm going to keep that open. So and I want to take advantage of that background to give this front edge a highlight. Okay. So I'm starting light, and I want to, as I go, I'll try and get more and more darker tones into it. So here we'll get a bit more overlap. So on the back, I'm stopping on that back edge. And here. So it should already be starting to come up a bit as I blush it. See, I can get a darker tone just by going over it twice with the same colour. Here also more Bob Ross. And I'll just take a little bit darker, so I want to try and get as much contrast as possible. So here, this is an N3. So I'm trying to draw these lines. See, that's a bit crooked. That we don't want that. You want to have straight edges. Yeah. You can always straighten those lines up a bit. So here we're getting a bit more contrast in it. So now I'm going to go over that edge again, darker at the bottom, and really make it sit down. And if you look at the glass, you'll see it sort of shifts sometimes from a light to a dark spot. There may be on the edge here, there's maybe it's light here on this edge and on this side. So these are things you can keep fiddling around with for ages, but you know, the main point is just to communicate that idea of transparency. So once I've done that, I can look at putting a background on. So I'm going to put a beam shape, a window behind it. When you do this, you want to make sure that it's horizontal. It's an architectural shape, so if you use a square, you can see I was way out with that. So it's important that these are straight, otherwise it really starts to look messy and lazy. So try to use a square or another page if you don't have a square with you to make sure those lines are straight. Now what I want to do here is I'm going to put some refraction. You often see that the refraction, it goes up in reality, but because if I draw a refraction line around here following this edge, it'll look a lot like there's just an edge drawn on the front surface. So instead of doing that, I'm going to use a bit of artistic license and I'll draw it like this. So now I'm just going to choose a colour. It could be grey, it could be something else, and I'm going to draw the background. I'll just start with that outside edge. And I mean, it's up to you. You don't have to always colour it in. We could just leave it like this. Maybe I will this time. And here I'm going to so this is starting to give that idea of reflected light coming through. So